What's going on, everybody? How we doing? Uh, we're gonna we're gonna we're gonna get we'll get some people going in here. Welcome to live chat. All right, yeah. So we're gonna get going here in a few minutes. I had an idea maybe to tie up. Um, I grabbed my fly tying box and I'm gonna go through some things and see if maybe I can't make a couple bug impersonations that might work. These mayflies seem to be everywhere. A buddy of mine, Bill Morey, sent me a nice message earlier saying how he had kind of won the opportunity to jump in on that open trip with Captain Tony Buffa the other day, and he Bill sent me hi, what's up, Eric? How you doing, buddy? Bill sent me a message and said that the trip was amazing, and the people on the trip, it was an open boat trip, and getting to fish with Tony were all wonderful. And he said we trolled and jigged and casted our fool heads off to screens that looked pretty promising and pretty full of life. And he said at the end of the day, they'd had 3 bites, 1 short, and 2 keepers. You're a hero 1 minute and you're a zero the next. And Tony's been in that game a long time, and I know what he was already saying. You could have went out and found the school that wasn't around food, and boom, just smash daddied him. Seems like every time I've been finding fish lately, they're just surrounded by bugs. Today is what, Monday? Saturday morning, I live scoped for 3 hours probably in the morning, and everywhere I looked, I had bugs, clouds of them undulating from mid-water column down to the bottom, coming up out of the bottom in what looked like fountains. And you can see them moving, and there are a lot of things. And first, it almost looks like a stream of bubbles, and my buddy Paul and I were talking this morning on the boat, because you see them on your graph, and they're pointed, and they stick up out of the bottom. And I almost wonder if these mayflies are hatching out of a subsurface, like, I don't even know what you would call it, hive, centralized location, and then they burst up like kind of like a geyser, or are they just randomly spread across the bottom willy-nilly, and I know it's only supposed to be on the soft bottom areas. And for the last 4 days, there's been casings out on the water, on the surface, but not like a crazy amount like we see. And I was told last year that water temperatures need to be a little closer to 70 degrees for the big hatches of them out there, and we're not quite there yet, even on the surface. So we'll see. Eric Wisniewski, what's up? Joseph Lejeune, Chris Bryan. Good evening. Farmer Tim, good evening. What's up, buddy? Fish the grass. We had a nice bite Saturday. I've been fishing the grass pretty religiously and on a daily basis. I fished weed beds Friday, Saturday, and Sunday out around 1:30 up on top of the shelf, around the islands, north and south sides, Muskrat Bay, South Bay, Big Bay. I've been fishing weed beds, and I have not found. I found some decent weeds. A lot of eelgrass, man. Everywhere you look, there's eelgrass beds, and every time you find some good cabbage or broadleaf or whatever people call that, you find that good green, fresh cabbage. My guess is that's giving off a lot of oxygen and it's drawn bait in like a magnet. Because when it's growing like that, it's filtering CO2 underwater, right? And giving off oxygen. So, um, but I haven't been getting bit at all here in the last couple days. I caught a pickerel again today. The only bite I had, and we threw the harness for an hour in two different weed beds. You know, I mean that's a fair shake. That's not like five casts and I was out of there. Shake. Now tomorrow I have a little different plan when I go out there, but um, I have not found the weeds that are holding the walleyes. I know what you throw. Jovan, thanks, buddy. Merlin, what's going on? Bill Gilbert, Pike Master. Happy Heatwave, folks. Hey, listen, everybody bitches when it's cold. Last Monday, Paul and I were out there, and I was shivering underneath my stuff. I only had one layer on, so I'm ready. But I don't. I mean, I don't want to melt either. You know, I don't know if I could live in the deep South Florida year round and be down there in the summertime and just not be able to get any relief. Because then what's the sense? You got to live your life inside. I don't want to do that. Chris Bryan, I was just west of the islands and 14 foot of water casting hammer harnesses were very effective. All right. I was there today from 12 to 14 foot and it was not. So there, Chris. Listen, it's time and place, you know, no question. Maybe the wind and current will push the bugs just as the wind push and congregates fish. Well, you know, I don't know. I always naturally look for fish on the windward side of any structure I might be around. So, I mean, I was going to say, yeah, I've seen bugs there too because I've seen bugs there. But, yeah, I don't know how those bugs move around. If they do, how much they move once they come up out of the mud. But I thought I'd like to try and tie some sort of a black, dark, maybe not just black either. You know, you see those casings on the surface and they look pretty tan. So maybe I've got some colors. Let's get. I was cooked well done today at 2 p.m. Dave Jordan said. I bet that was a long day. Larry Melnick, the PA boys are coming back up this week. They're going to show me how it's done. All right. Eric Wisniewski said, babe, sugar melts. He knows. I'm sure he's had to warn his wife that in heat waves, he could melt as well. I told you. Not just me. Like, she thinks I just made it up. It's not just me. I don't see her eyes. She rolls them, but her mother never told her that one day they'll stick like that. Chris said that was Saturday, went through several shorts, but ended up with, for myself, in a few hours amongst other species. Yeah, I mean, I'm down for the other species, and I saw some of the biggest and the single biggest carp I think I've ever seen this weekend in those weed beds out off mid-lake structure, but still in weed beds in 12 foot of water, and they were just, this thing came underneath the boat. I was getting ready to yell, we're going to need a bigger boat. It was enormous. Farmer Tim said, I fished the weekend with my daughter and wife. Not a great bite for us, but a great Father's Day it was. Yeah. Yeah, Courtney and I took a ride yesterday. I have a lot of history. My family's from here in central New York. Liverpool and Baldwinsville and whatnot. But um, my grandfather and my grandmother, both of them, um, they had they either vacationed up there for a short time or they became permanent summer residents up on the St. Lawrence and Cape Vincent when I was very young. Um, and a lot of my summers when I was young were spent working, doing odd jobs up there around town or in the trailer park or wherever I could to make enough money to keep me out of grandma's hair. And but I got to spend the summer with them up there, and Grandpa and I fished, as much as I could get them out there. Um, so that area up there is very special to me. From Alex Bay, I didn't spend a lot of time in Alex Bay. Um, Only later on in life to go up there and party and stuff. But um, Clayton, I've spent a lot of time in Clayton by boat fishing um, and in town, and my grandpa and all his carrier buddies used to go to Grindstone Island, which is right off of Clayton. And they always went up Father's Day weekend, which was opening weekend of bass season. This year it happens to be the same thing, but um, most years it opened on Saturday and Sunday was Father's Day. So I wanted to be up there. He's been gone now for years, since 2003. What year is it now? 24, 2003. So it's been 21 years. It's hard to believe. And so I wanted to be close to him a little and go up there, and Courtney humored me and we took a ride. So we went up to Alex Bay and figured we'd start the Father's Day festivities off right. We went and played miniature golf. And my wife proceeded to kick the living snot out of me playing miniature golf. She would hit her first shot just anywhere, reasonably. And the second shot she made like 12 out of 18 times. Made the second shot from no matter where she was. It was uncanny. She made she had twos on all but I think 2 holes on the back 9. I had a 3 and a 5 and it was ridiculous. So that's how we started out, Father's Day.
What happens when you smack talk?
I didn't, she's going to tell you I was talking smack, but I wasn't. And then she tried to argue with me while she's creaming me that she hit it in the water, had to pull it out with her club, and then was arguing that I was trying to cheat by giving her a penalty stroke added onto her score. And she was trying to argue with me that that's not the rules until we finally got to dinner or lunch and she looked up the rules, and even with the penalty strokes, she beat me by 11. So it was a beat down. Wasn't even fair. I don't know how she cheated, but when I find out, find out.
You started off the game trying to cheat and kick my ball.
That can't be proven.
Distract me.
Eric Wisniewski, that is words to live by right there, my friend. They're always biting something somewhere. Haha. Nothing's ever any one thing all the time. Like a bad bite for one, it just happens to be the area and the group of fish you're around. And sometimes it's a matter of how many groups of fish can you find in one day and take their temperature and see if they, but who knows? Chris Bryan, if I have time, I'll break out the vise and make up a couple prototypes and let me know if I have any success with them. If you let you know, yeah. I'll probably be in town again this weekend. Awesome. Eric, what's going on, buddy? So I'm gonna my thought is like these little hair jigs. This is calf hair. Like that's a panfish jig or a crappie jig. It's tiny. But would that work? Not in that color. I mean, it could be in that color. But I got a box full of these that I've used for trout fishing, for steelhead fishing under a float, but that's about an inch long, little over an inch from the front of the head all the way out. You know, um, now here's just a standard quarter ounce Northland jig head, and I could tie something that fat bodies right here, and maybe give a couple tail biots and maybe some antennae, and still keep the whole thing just that size. Um, Here are some that I have done in the past and I've used, and I do like this stuff. It's a little stiff right now because it's kind of like tanned leather underneath it, but this is Zonker strip rabbit. And when this is wet and pliable, it really undulates beautifully, just like marabou, and just just a hackle body and a little bit of a collar. Now this is going to probably tip the scales at that's over a quarter, maybe it's a quarter, 3/8. But it's got the right stuff. It's got wiggly stuff hanging off it. I don't know exactly what those nymphs look like except for the casings that are all over the surface, but they seem to be about yay long. It looks like they've got a split biot tail at the end. I don't know if I have anything to make a tail like that, but we'll find out. I'll walk you guys through. Sorry, babe. That's various color calf tail, some long saddle hackle. I have various stuff in here. I've got fake bucktail. I've got a myriad of different tinsels and glitter. These are all those Zonker strips I was just talking about. And good colors like that. That gray right there might look good. Also, there's the black, but also an olive. That olive is green pumpkin. Think of it that way. We got a phone call today that this color, orange and red, craw looking jigging wrap was working for somebody that was within eyesight of us. Now, working, I think, was a subjective term, but they caught a few on it. Paul and I did throw red for a little while in various different baits, and we didn't have much success with it. He caught his one keeper on. He bought one of those Kalen search baits, quarter ounce one, the other day or last week. And then I have just some various bucktail in different colors that I could possibly use. Some browns and greens and whatnot. So we'll see. I'm not even sure what hook I'm going to do it on. Jeff Johnson, lots of bugs on the water, only caught one. The walleyes are not biting too good. If I tied up a mayfly, would you suggest it be an emerging mayfly or mature? Well, I don't know. I don't know what phase they're in, but I mean, again, on live scope, when I was spot locked and sitting still, they were moving quite a bit. So I would think that those clouds, and some of those clouds, you could see the density was thicker than others because they showed up better on the live scope screen. I don't know, Dave. I would do both because I mean, it's in the nymph stage below the surface, and so that's got to be an emerger once it comes off the bottom. I don't really know. Like I say, I just know what they look like. I'm not trying to necessarily match the hatch, although I'd be really curious. I mean, like, you could almost go out there with a fly rod and real heavy sink tip line cast it downwind as far as you could and strip it back to you and let it get down to 5, 6, 7 feet. But I mean, what would you do? Pull one single one? You can have up to what? 6? No, it's got to be more than 6. You can have up to 9 hook points. So, I mean, I suppose you could put a couple of them on a rig, like a sabiki rig, or like if you were going to drop shot them, could you drop shot multiple ones at a time? And space them out like this much, or I don't know. What do you say to Matt when he's got 2 black eyes? Nothing. Courtney hadn't already told him twice. That was Eric.
And he still didn't learn his lesson.
Yeah. Man, you guys better watch it. You're going on super secret probation there, Eric. Yeah, Chris, don't encourage him. Carl Lamana. Carl asked the burning question, is tomorrow morning a waste of time? Now, Carl, is it ever a waste of time? As the immortal Mr. Spicoli once said to Mr. Hand, if I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time? It's never a waste of time, Carl. I'm sure you're going to go out and fall right on the big hot school of them. Scott G, got to be picking weeds off your lures every cast now. Yes, no matter what you're using. It drives me nuts, honestly. Castaway Adventures. Hello, how long do you think the mayflies / bugs going to cause walleye issues? Until they're gone. Listen, you still get, I'm not preaching doom and gloom. I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination. The years that we've had some of the heaviest mayfly hatches, we caught them every single day. You just got to find the right ones. And when you find those ones that you're seeing all over the screen and they're not biting, this is a tough one, you got to leave them. You got to cut the drift short and say, how long can I go through fish and jig and jig and jig, or whatever you're doing, pulling lures, pulling harnesses, well, I see when you're casting the weeds, you're not really seeing them, but let's just theoretically say, like, how long can you go down a weed bed without making contact? They're obviously not there. You got to, some days I feel like I don't give things long enough, but usually it's the opposite. Usually I give places too long. Time management. I'm not in a tournament, but Monday through Friday, I've got time management. And even Saturday, Sunday, it's not like I'm just gone all day and on the water. I still am home. I still have a family. I still have other things I do in life. And so sometimes time management is your friend, and sometimes it's on your shoulder saying, oh, you made 3 casts, you didn't catch one, go to the next spot, or go here. I'm not saying run all over like a chicken with your head cut off, but you get on a group of fish and you've graphed them when you drove over them, and you get up above them and you stop and you drift back down, or as soon as you see them, you spot lock and you start casting to them. Like if you're sharpshooting them right now, you don't even need a slip bobber. You could. It's fun. It's visual. It's cool. But you could do it with just a bare jig and a worm, or really with anything. But you see the fish, and you stop immediately because you should be right at your transducer. Boom, off the back of the boat. It drops right down. It's like flipping bass, like we talked about. It's like flipping largemouth in the weeds. You go, whoosh, boom. And that first time it drops, more and more we find in every species out there, that's where you have the highest percentage of getting bit, is that initial cast. It hits the surface and whoosh, goes all the way down past something, and that going down seems to be as much of a trigger as going up and away. And those fish chase it down and eat it. So that's sharpshooting them. You see that fish on the screen, you just drove over it, slam on the brakes, threw it in reverse, take the rod that's already rigged up, flip it out the back, boom, it gets down to the bottom. Nothing. Lift it up, nothing. Jig it once, twice, 3 times, nobody home, reel it up. You can try one more drop out a couple more feet. Same scenario. Boom, hits the bottom, lift up, nothing there, bounce, 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 nothing there, bring it in. And then you put it back in gear and you keep right on going and look for the next one. And that's hunting individual fish. Now, maybe you run into a school, maybe you don't. But that alone right there, you can soak up 3-4 hours in a big flat, which this lake has plenty of, or big open areas. And you can go and look for one fish at a time, or, obviously 2 or 3 or more, the better your odds are. But a lot of people will tell you, I like to drop on one fish. Everybody has a different preference. I'm way off track. Shocker. What do you recommend and how deep tomorrow? Worm, jig, still hot? Well, I can't drive your boat out there for you, Carl, and put you on the right spot. But again, it's not a matter of where I can recommend, and I've been telling you for a week now that it's been tough for me, but the spots that I'm looking, I can go tomorrow and they can be full of biting fish. You never know. Go to your spots, figure out what you want to do, and then tailor it accordingly. Yeah, castaway with my live scope too. Lots of fish interested in all kinds of baits, but would chase and not hit. Yep. Chris Bryan, you got me thinking. I'm going to tie some mayfly imitation flies with a small Colorado harness blade pegged above it. You could do that and do it just like you would, I guess, with a hammer rig in open water. You could put that spinner in front of it. You could, like I say, I'm thinking about fishing it as a drop shot. And I also thought about maybe, like, I don't know if this sounds silly or not, but maybe tie it on a dropper that would come off the back of a swim bait or something, like a stinger hook, but maybe 6 inches long behind the swim bait. I'm not sure, but there's got to be a way to do something. Let's see if I can find something to tie. All right, I'm going to turn you guys around here. I promise. Yeah, Freddie, I just saw your thing there. Yeah, a small lure. I have been throwing some small swim baits, some 3-inchers, which really tape out to be about 2.5. And again, I've counted them down to where I think they're above those fish in the water column. You guys are going to laugh. Thank God I don't have the camera turned around this way. I'm trying to thread the bobbin. with the thread. And it's fighting me tooth and nail. There we go. All right. No idea what I've got for hooks here. Yeah, that's what I did. I'm gonna have to move this slightly. All right, let's see here. I'm gonna put a little bit of, like a twin tail kind of thing here. I think we'll make the body out of that. It's not easy trying to look around this phone. Edward Mann, I know you like using braid. What's your go-to pound test and leader combination for walleye? Thanks, man. Ed, I use a couple different combinations. It's really just the difference in leader size more than anything else. And I change leader size based on lure to a certain extent. For my swim baits, my finesse swim bait presentation. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to find. I know I've got other hooks here. I'm gonna need that. All right. A bit of silver flash. So Ed, for my finesse swim bait presentations, I'm running 8-pound Cortland Master braid is the only braid I run right at the moment. Cortland Master braid, 8-pound test, which is like 5 or 4-pound diameter. And then I run about 10 feet of 6-pound test Cortland top secret fluorocarbon. I'm going to get a few pieces of tinsel here and make just a little tiny tail that will tie in and then weave into the body. So that's what I use for. So that's what I use for my finesse swim baits. This has got to go this way. See, that hair's got to come around that somehow. Gotta. You can tell that I do not, under any circumstance, tie jigs or flies for a living. See, now it's that little piece of hair that doesn't do what you want it to do right there. So that's for, so when I start throwing blade baits, I change up, I run a 10-pound test braid, and I bring that down to 20-pound test fluorocarbon, about 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet, and not too long. I'm not looking to. I'm not sure how this is going to look. I don't really have. I got black. I mean, black's always a good color for a hackle, but. And I do have black. I'm just not going to use it. Now, I did a video years ago with Captain Mike Uremo, the owner of I1 Blade Baits. And in that video, he talks about why he uses that heavy leader and what it does for his blade bait. And you can go back and watch that video, and I'll give you the synopsis here, the Cliff Notes version, and that is that heavy 20-pound test line has nothing to do with, I mean, it's great for abrasion resistance with teeth, you know, and whatnot, but it acts like a keel. It acts like a keel or a rudder when that bait is falling through the water. As soon as it hits the water, you check it to see if it's vibrating. That means it hasn't fouled. Sorry, give me a second. I have new respect for these guys. That their whole channel is them tying. Yeah, that worked out really super well. I'm joking. Trim some of that down. Head shakes from the Great Lakes. Oh, yeah, I know. Head shakes from the Great Lakes. You should be cutting off that lead bait holder. I know. I'm not going to get that involved. I just can't put my hands on my hooks right at the moment. James Armstrong. Is there any decent place to fish from shore? Going to be up that way in a couple weeks for 2 days and don't want to haul the boat. Yeah, there are some places to fish from shore. You can go down Sylvan Beach. Both ends have rivers that go in and out of them. Both ends have. I'm gonna scrap this whole tie-in thing, guys. It's a pain right in the butt. I'll have to get set up for it. Fix my camera angle and where I'm gonna do it from, and we'll do it again. Maybe I'll get something. I gotta find the hooks, is what I'm looking for. I've got long shank drop shot hooks in here that would be perfect for this, if I could just find them. Yeah, there's parks on both sides, North Shore and South Shore, Chapman, especially in the evenings, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, in those spots. The weeds are starting to come up along shore, so you gotta figure that in. There's the 81 bridge, that's deep water. You can even jig from out there. So there is plenty of places. Are you going to use what you're tying up there for tomorrow morning? If so, want a picture of it. Yeah, that, I don't know. We'll see. That jig didn't really come out like I wanted to, but I do like that purple and olive color. That little collar on it. I need something that's got a little long hackle that's going to come over it. It's funny, I tie it with the sensibility of a steelhead fly, but it's just a lowly jig. I'm bummed I don't have my, I'll find my hooks. Maybe I'll do a regular video, not a live. Just ways, just ideas. You know, in the old days, they used to use those bumblebee spinners. My grandpa used to have a box of them. And they were yellow and black, palmered body, with a little white wing and a red tail sticking out of it. They're buggy looking. And they'd put a little they would put a small spinner in front of it, and it would be one piece. It'd be a solid piece of wire. And the clevis would be right on the wire. A bumblebee spinner, you know, and you could troll them. I suppose you could cast them. I'm sure people probably did, although casting wasn't nearly the thing as it is now, because that's what I should have did. My neighbor gave me an old tackle box she'd found under her house that probably dates back to the 40s. And there was some cool stuff in there. Some stuff, a couple things that hadn't been fished yet. Maybe I'll do that next week, and we'll look through it. But I forgot why I was talking about that, though. I'll get hooks. We'll do a video on that. But yeah, listen, you can either complain about the mayflies, or you can try and beat them. And I figured, what can it hurt? I'll tie up some things that have a little more hair, a little more buggy profile to it, instead of more fish type profile, and we'll go from there. And see what happens. So, all right. Anybody got any questions? Anybody got any comments? Anything they want to talk about? Now would be the time. All these cool tinsels. It's like a disco inferno in here. All these cool tinsels. I do tie some pike flies. I haven't in a couple years. The last time I did was from my buddy Todd Sheltra. You guys have seen him on the channel many times. And Todd will tell you, my pike flies catch fish. I like tying the bigger ones too. My days of tying little tiny stuff seem to be over, between trying to see everything, especially when you get down to, I would have to have cheaters, big magnifiers, if I was going to tie something like something, a dry fly in the 16 or less range. That's so small. If I can tie something on a popper shank, or the big, all this faux bucktail is what I would use for that stuff. Same profile, looks very similar. It's 100% synthetic. It doesn't absorb water. So, when you're flicking around those big flies, even if you're fly fishing for bass, you're throwing, and I also got these to tie jigs with, because, that purple, that's a nice purple. Nice, straight, even color, even hackle. But it doesn't absorb water. So if you're throwing a big fly and it starts getting heavy, and those natural bucktail fibers start to absorb that, you don't think about it when you're fishing conventional, either spinning or casting tackle. But if you were throwing a fly rod, you'd think about it real quick, because your arm would want to fall off after about 5 false casts. So little things like that. I just like to have a box still. I mean, it's the old steelhead guide in me. You got to have stuff tied up for clients, and now I do a little bit of it, not much anymore. I do a little bit. Once in a while. I like to tie up stuff and go catch fish on it. It's a very satisfying feeling. Very satisfying. The problem I've been having this year is the bigger walleye have been coming off. My hooks are sharp, and even tied a stinger hook add-on with add-on. It's the first year I've had problems with it. I fished a Whitney Point res most of the time. Well, listen, sometimes you just have a streak of, so if you got a lot of fish coming off, maybe you focus and you make sure that you tell yourself, I did this when I learned how to frog fish. Throwing those big artificial hollow body frogs. Frogs like this, but the hook is up like this, above the water. So it's weedless and it comes up like that. So you got to have that fish come up, blow up on it, take it, go down with it so that when that lure comes tight and you set the hook, it catches that lip. But you have to wait, because if you set the hook as soon as you start to see that whoosh and hear that big, you know, you yank it right out of that fish, never even had it in its mouth. Maybe if you're having a lot of fish come off, you've reacted instantaneously to the bite, and maybe you could have waited a split second longer and really let them have it, kind of thing. It's worth a shot. It can't hurt. It can't hurt. So try that and see what happens. All right, everybody, 50 minutes, that's long enough to hear me talk. Unless anybody's got anything, I'll see you out there tomorrow. Have a great evening. Keep your tip up.